There's just so many breathtaking views out here. It just feels like everywhere you look there's a nice view of a mountain or a lake or sometimes even both, so just spectacular scenery.
California is one of the most expansive and unique states in the entire U.S., with miles of coastline, deep forests, and snow-capped mountains. It is truly a spectacular place for nature lovers and birders in particular. We are visiting the state for a week-long birding trip with our friend and professional bird guide Rachel Clark. On our first day, we had an incredible adventure, getting our first looks at a variety of habitats in California and finding birds we'd never seen before. On day 2, we once again geared up for another long birding adventure. Day 2 in California, and we're getting up slightly less early today, so we got a little more rest, but it is going to be another epic day because we're going to go for some target species that are very elusive, and if we get looks at them, it'll be amazing.
Pumped. We definitely needed some extra rest today because we were out like the entire day yesterday. So one of our targets today is Clark's Nutcracker, and so that would be a really neat one to see. Rachel described their songs calls this disgusting, so we'll be listening for some disgusting noises to help us hopefully find a pretty beautiful bird. We're stopping at Shaver Lake, which is a place people apparently have reported Sasquatch sightings, so maybe we can add another lifer.
Our first location would be the trails and forests around the town of Shaver Lake, a known hotspot for Sasquatch sightings. Then, we would head up to higher elevation to try and find some of our target birds for the trip. Before going to either of these places, though, we stopped at a parking area where we found cliff swallows and western bluebirds. We also got some quick glimpses of one of our target species.
At the rest stop, we had some Lawrence's goldfinches that Rachel heard. I saw something moving away. Can't confirm for me that it was officially Lawrence's, but they're around. And then we stopped at a fruit stand that was there, and we got some oranges and some cherries. So the guy said he picked them this morning, so he said it couldn't get more fresh than that. So we'll see if they're as good as they say.
You know what you're gonna have to do is a fruit review.
After thoroughly scouring the surrounding area and not finding any more signs of the Lawrence's goldfinches, we headed to our first stop.
We're at the Edison rest stop, and this is in the town of Shaver Lake. We're hoping to pick up some really nice birds here. We're still on the lookout for Lawrence's goldfinch, and then we're gonna start birding this area first and then move to some other spots, so hopefully this will be really good for us.
Right away, we found a species that was actually a lifer for us, the hermit warbler.
So I'm so glad that you guys were able to get some footage of the hermit warbler, and that's no easy feat because they're notorious for being canopy dwellers. They sing from up there, they forage from up there, so the fact that this guy was so obliging is really, really awesome. They're such a beautiful western species, and yeah, I'm glad that this guy cooperated with you.
After getting our first life bird of the day, we headed down the trail, arriving at a clearing that had tons of birds singing.
So there's a nice little patch of montane chaparral down here in this kind of forest clearing, and it's really, really productive. There was a green-tailed towhee singing down there, a McGillivray's warbler singing from that area, and several other things singing all around it. There's a Cassin's vireo that's singing away over here. Heard an Audubon's yellow rump warbler singing, a distant Nashville warbler. There's our hermit warblers up here in the tall evergreens, so it's just a beautiful morning. Really, really productive, wonderful day so far.
We followed the song of the Cassin's vireo and eventually saw it up in a tree.
Cassin's vireo singing. We're gonna go try to see from the other side so the lighting's a little better. Generally, if you have the sun behind you, that's when you can get the best light. If you're looking into the sun, things are a lot darker, so we're gonna try to get those better views.
Doesn't that Cassin's vireo remind you so much of a blue-headed vireo?
Yes.
Farther down the trail, we had a run-in with one of the species we were most hoping to see in California, the Lawrence's goldfinch.
So exciting that you guys got your lifer Lawrence's goldfinches. They are so nomadic and elusive, like they have to come to you. You can't really go to them. So I wasn't positive that you guys would get one when you're here, but I was optimistic that it could happen, and I was really stressed out because I heard some earlier and they weren't cooperative at all. But these guys are cooperative. Thank goodness. I did not want you guys to leave the state without getting your life for Lawrence's goldfinches, and you got them.
Not only were the Lawrence's goldfinches spending a lot of time here, but also nest building, a unique thing to see from such a nomadic species.
There, the Lawrence's goldfinches are nest building right up there.
That's pretty sweet.
This is awesome. Oh, so cool.
We watched the Lawrence's goldfinches for a while, listening for the different bird noises they imitated in their widely variable songs.
One day about a year or so ago, I literally spent probably over a half hour just listening to a Lawrence's goldfinch sing, picking out as many different species call note imitations that I could. And it's really amazing what you can pick out of there. This one imitated yellow-rumped warbler, it imitated lesser goldfinch, western bluebird, and a handful of others too. I mean, if you're a nerd like me, it's actually really entertaining to sit there and listen and pick them all out.
While it was hard to pull ourselves away from the goldfinches, we eventually did, and made our way to Shaver Lake, which offered us a beautiful look out over the water.
Many of the places we've visited so far are just so peaceful and serene. It's really amazing how much wilderness there is out here and different habitats too to enjoy and explore.
Feeling like we found most of the birds we were looking for along this hiking trail, we made our way back, all the while keeping our eyes and ears open for not just birds, but other things that might be in the woods as well.
Does this place give you Squatchy vibes?
Not really. Not yet. It's probably how you feel until you get squatched, and then you're like, I was wrong. I was so wrong.
You don't want to miscalculate that one.
Mm-mm.
Before leaving, we had to stop for a snack break.
This is one of the cherries we got at the fruit stand, so we're doing a cherry review. A little tart. Pit inside. Pretty good sweetness. 7.5. Solid cherry. Would eat again.
Next, we headed to a different habitat with the slim hope of finding what would be a lifer owl species.
We've moved on now to a campsite where there's a very slight possibility of perhaps getting a look at a spotted owl. That's a really tough bird to find, so I don't think that the odds are great, but it's a neat habitat here, so we're going to see if there's any other interesting species while we look.
We explored this area with many tall conifers, getting some excellent looks at a western finch.
Had some great Cassin's finch views, and it was up and singing. That's probably the best view I've had that's like extended. I've seen them briefly before, but Rachel was saying that it will mimic the songs of other birds. So it's kind of cool to listen and see if you could actually hear them mimicking something else.
Walking further into the trees, we found ourselves in an opening with a clear view of some beautiful mountains.
There's just so many breathtaking views out here. It just feels like everywhere you look there's a nice view of a mountain or a lake or sometimes even both, so just spectacular scenery.
While we didn't find a lot of birds in this spot, the incredible scenery and experience with the Cassin's finch made it totally worth it. From there, we went into the actual town of Shaver Lake, where we spotted birds at a restaurant and enjoyed some of the local legends.
I'm getting food right now, but there's a raven that was on the roof and there were some mountain chickadees, so maybe some french fries will bring them in.
Yeah, there was a raven right up here, and as soon as I got the camera on him, he was off.
Well, we made it to the Squatch mural.
This right here is what you come to Shaver Lake to see.
After having our own Bigfoot encounter of sorts, we started making our way into the mountains.
We're on our way to Huntington Lake recreation area, and we're going up some mountainous terrain, and we're going to be stopping and listening for Clark's nutcracker, maybe northern pygmy owl. We'll see, but we're taking frequent stops heading up to that area and going into the higher elevation.
We found a good spot to look out and listen. In this area, a fire had burned much of the forest, but that did provide a habitat for a few interesting species.
It's picked up mountain bluebird, so that's pretty neat.
Just had sublime looks at a rock wren singing right behind us. This has been a very productive short pull-off spot.
We continued to climb higher and higher in elevation. As we went, the habitat changed from burned woods to green conifer forests, with mountain streams descending down the road. Here, we found many birds, including an Anna's hummingbird, Steller's jays, and more Cassin's finches. Eventually, we arrived at Huntington Lake, eager to explore and find some of our biggest targets for the trip.
You think we're gonna find these birds?
Yep, I'm confident. We are trekking into a campground to hopefully find Williamson's sapsucker and Clark's nutcracker. This is definitely the right habitat. There's still some snow around, very mountainous, lots of pine, so it looks perfect for them.
All right, Mary Poppins, what are our odds?
I don't know. I say we've got about 50 to 70% chance of seeing or at least hearing a Clark's nutcracker. Williamson sapsucker, about 50%. Sooty grouse, probably pretty slim. Northern pygmy owl at this location, also probably pretty slim. But I have heard one over here in this Rancheria campground before, so you never know what can happen. Fingers crossed.
Any of those four would be epic, really.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we gotta get at least one of them. I'm holding out hope. So hopefully something happens before the rain starts.
At over 7,000 feet of elevation, the area around Huntington Lake has a very unique feel and boasts some extremely impressive scenery. One other thing we noticed about birding in this higher elevation area was the temperature change.
The tough part about birding in higher elevation is that when you start, it can be a lot warmer when you're down in the lower elevation, and then as you get higher and higher, the temperature cools off. So what you might have been wearing that was really nice when you were lower is now suddenly too chilly. So you have to make sure you bring a lot of different types of clothing along so you can stay comfortable the whole way through.
We started walking a road lined on one side by businesses, homes, and trees, and on the other by the lake. Here, we found some cool western bird species like band-tailed pigeons and white-headed woodpeckers, but none of our target birds.
Walking this road had some nice white-headed woodpecker views, a female that was foraging. A little overcast, haven't heard anything that sounds like Clark's yet, but there's still some time.
We continued checking out the birds in this area, finding a few more interesting species, with Brewer's blackbirds giving us the best looks. Normally, we would actually be looking for our target species in even higher elevation, but the California weather made that impossible.
The Clark's nutcracker and the Williamson sapsucker wouldn't be much of an issue had it not been for the fact that California's gotten a ton of snow this year. So the road that you usually go up to the highest elevations where these birds would be common is not accessible. So we're trying to find some that are in lower elevation than they normally would be, which is what's making it tough.
We switched locations to the other side of the lake, where a campground had some nice habitat. While there were some birds at the campground, other aspects of this area were distracting us.
So up here, there are a lot of different varieties of conifer, and they each have different types of cones. So you see here, this is a lodgepole, and then this is a Jeffrey. So you see there's a massive difference in the size of some of these things. You'll see these on the ground, they just look like regular little pine cones, and then you get these massive ones here as well.
Picked up olive-sided flycatcher, and we've been seeing a lot of mountain streams with runoff from that snow melt. And those are awesome. I love seeing the water rushing through. And hopefully we'll get a Clark's. We've been trying, no luck yet, but hopefully soon.
In one of the mountain streams, we were lucky enough to see a bird that is right at home in such a place.
Dipper! It's dipping! Got that real short tail and it's doing kind of the northern water thrush like Bob. Such a unique behavior. But we had quick glances of one the other day, so it's an awesome redemption to see this one up close.
The American dipper is among the most unique birds in North America. They are grayish-brown overall, with their body being a darker charcoal gray, and their head being more on the brown side. Breeding adults have a dark-colored bill, while non-breeding adults have a lighter-colored bill, and a bit more barring on the underside. American dippers are birds of the western United States and Canada. They inhabit most of Alaska, and even make their way as south as Mexico and parts of Central America. These birds are very habitat-specific, opting to spend their time in and around cool mountain streams, waterfalls, and other fast-moving water sources. The water is very important for American dippers because it's where they do most of their hunting. True to their name, these birds wade and plunge into the water, in search of aquatic invertebrates, such as insect larvae. They will also eat small fish as well. We continue to explore the campground, actually getting some really close-up encounters with the aforementioned olive-sided flycatcher, dark-eyed juncos, and mountain chickadees. We even had another nice look at the American dippers. However, we never did find any of our target birds on this day.
Just had a really neat experience with the American dippers. I was on the edge of this lake, and then Derek pointed out that there were two that were basically right in front of me that I couldn't see. And one popped up on a rock, and then I got to see it actually jump down into the water and kind of take a plunge. So that was really cool to see, but it looks like we're gonna have to get going from this spot. So we're gonna miss on a couple of our target species. We'll have to get those some other time down the road, maybe if we ever come back to California. It's a little disappointing, but we've also found a lot of other really cool stuff today, so it's hard to be too upset, especially when it's so beautiful out here.
Day 2 in California included some quintessential California scenery and some extremely exciting birds to match. The Lawrence's goldfinches were certainly the stars of the show, but other species such as the American dipper also made for a great experience as well. We wouldn't have had nearly the same success or fun without Rachel, who knew all of the best places to go and was great at identifying the species we saw. To book a trip with her in California, check out the link to her website in the description below. It's also worth noting that while we thought we missed our chance to see our high elevation target species, we would actually get one more shot later in the week. To see that and other videos from California, stay tuned for them to be released. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.